You think you hate it now, but wait till you drive it.
The Kibbe and Friends Show.
What it is, bro?
Featuring Rob Kibbe.
I don't know how to put this, but I'm kind of a big deal.
Justin Corn Dog Cornette.
New guy's in the corner puking his guts out.
And show producer Bernie McPartland.
This is the DJ 3000, and it has 3 distinct varieties of inane chatter.
Talking cars.
Do you feel this vehicle is safe for highway travel?
Yes, I do.
Diving deep on the topics that matter most.
Just when I think you couldn't possibly be any dumber, you go and do something like this.
And totally redeem yourself!
And the Dukes of Hazzard. Available in iTunes, Stitcher, and whatever else it is you listen on.
Turn up the volume.
The Kibbe and Friends Show.
Kibbe and Friends Show, episode 109. Available in the iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Instagram, YouTube, Patreon. Patreon is where we're going big. Lots of good stuff is happening in Patreon. And in Patreon, a week ago, we had our feature interview with Jack Gill, which we will be playing here today. We'll play an edited down highlight reel of the Jack Gill, the man that put the General Lee through a barn while looking through the sun visor, right?
Close enough.
You guys are going to dig this interview. This is stunt legend Jack Gill with Stunts Unlimited. Before we kind of get into the other stuff we're going to cover today, Stunts Unlimited, was that founded by Hal Needham, or did that predate Hal Needham, Corndog? Is this something you would know?
He started it. And the thing I understood was, you had Stuntmen's Association, and Hal Needham kind of wanted to go bigger and badder with the stunts, along with many other guys, and so they did Stunts Unlimited, basically, is the gist of it.
Okay.
I'd say it started probably 69 or 70, maybe.
That magical voice that you just heard is Justin Corndog Cornette. Also with us is Bernie McPartland, our intrepid producer, who is up past his bedtime and is recording WKRP. Isn't that right, Bernie?
Man, technology is a wonderful thing. I've embraced recording since, when it first shortly came on the scene when did we buy our first VCR? I don't remember now, but it was a good one. I still have it. Corndog thinks he's a pack rat. He should shuffle through some of this closet space over here. I mean, his is just a lot cooler. You can see it there, but mine's all holed away. Sit back and watch the blinking lights, yes. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well. It's nice to be into May. There's a lot going on today. We have a lot to hit today. One thing that has happened is I've been trying to do more interaction with other podcast shows. I got to go on a podcast show. I was on the Truck Show podcast with Lightning and Holman. And I had Sean on my show, Muscle Car Place, last week. So we kind of did a trade out. And everything was just going so great until I opened my big mouth and I started bragging on how good I have it with my colleagues here. I have put together a short clip. You'll see.
Guess who Rob Kibbe knows?
My pal Corndog not only knows all the Fall Guy stuff, but he had one of the Fall Guy mid-engine jump trucks in his backyard.
So we need to get Corndog's number because it's going to be the Truck Show podcast with Lightning and Holman and Corndog!
Don't take him. I need him. And don't take my producer either.
Right here. I got my own producer.
Where is he? Wait, you have a producer?
Oh, yeah. And I apologize. Bernie McPartland is his name.
You just made that name. Oh, that's a made-up name.
Bodie McBoatface.
That's his God-given radio name.
How easy is he to work with? And can I have his email?
Don't even go there.
I'm not ever going to give out his email or number because he is.
Ooh, look,
awesome.
LinkedIn. I found him.
That's how it went. When I started, I had this amazing buddy show, and when it was over, they were poaching my guys. I got to learn to shut up. No, those are good guys. That was a ton of fun to do. So Finnegan gets credit for introducing me to Holman because I didn't know him. And I kind of walked him through the transition of Kibbe and Finnegan to Kibbe and Friends. And I was really bragging on you, Corndog, about all of your inside knowledge, and then I just happened to let it slip, and I was trying to show off, that you had one of those Fall Guy trucks in your backyard.
Yeah.
And that blew them away because I don't remember if it was Holman or Lightning, but they too wanted to introduce a segment where they reviewed some Hollywood stuff to feature trucks, because they have the truck show, and that's their insight. And they have a real insider inside. This is their actual job. They cover the truck industry. And The Fall Guy is one of the truck productions that they really wanted to cover. They thought that was really cool. So I know that you've said connections in there. Mm-hmm. Is there a Fall Guy equivalent of Corn Dog out there somewhere? I mean, I'm sure somebody's super into that show.
I know of a couple people that know. There again, the guy that actually owned the truck, my friend Craig Cummins, when he owned it and it was here, he's done a ton of research on that truck. And so he knows quite a bit about it. And he's a big truck guy. He's also got the BJ and the Bear truck. He used to own the Black Dog production, Black Dog Swayze movie truck or whatever. I've never even seen it. Black Dog. Really? It's just a black truck. He's a big truck guy. So I've never even seen the movie.
So he's either Black Dog instead of Corn Dog, or perhaps he's just Chili Dog, affectionately.
Hot Dog.
Hot Dog. Hot Dog-er. How would the plate look? HTGG apostrophe. Yeah.
We have shirts available for purchase. Okay. KFShowShirts.com. That's still out there. New designs on the way and upcoming. Yes. Anyway, Truck Show Podcast. Go check that out. Those are good guys. Very good guys. Okay. Cool. Have you guys seen Avengers?
No.
Negative.
None of them.
All right. None of them. Okay. This should make our brand new game show go quite well. Bernie, have you seen any Avengers?
Negative.
Okay. We're going to go ahead and start here. I'll go ahead and lay in the background music. I did this a little bit with Finnegan, but I really like dad jokes, like a lot. So these are Avengers terrible dad jokes. This is our brand new segment, Bad Dad Jokes with Avengers themes. Corn Dog. What did they call T'Challa when he was a baby? T'Challa.
No clue.
Black Pampers. His character, of course, is Black Panther. That was a tough one to start out with. Bernie.
Insert cricket noise right here.
No. I got the Avengers theme back. Let's pump you up. Bernie, what is it called when Iron Man does a cartwheel?
When Iron Man does a cartwheel.
I know this one.
Did I use this one already?
Don't know.
I think so.
All right. Phone a friend. Corn Dog, what's the answer?
Ferris wheel.
You are right. Bing! Perfect. Perfect. Okay, back to
I think I did hear it from you.
I knew there was a Ferris joke in here, so I couldn't remember.
Stuck with it.
Corn Dog, what is the Avengers' favorite day of the week? Their very favorite day.
I'll go with Friday.
No, it is Thor's Day. Thor's Day.
Yes.
You like that?
Makes perfect sense.
Don't care for it, huh? Okay. I'm pretty sure this is a repeat. I'll give this to Bernie, because if he edited it, he heard it. But Bernie, where did Spider-Man get his powers from?
The World Wide Web.
Yes. Bing! Another one for Bernie. Although the other one you got for Corn Dog. This you should get. There's an Incredible Hulk reference in here, and we should know this stuff because that was on the before the Dukes of Hazzard. What is Bruce Banner's favorite drink?
No clue. Surge.
That would be a better answer. This isn't this fruit punch is the answer. I veto this joke. This is not a good joke. Fruit punch.
Hawaiian punch.
Hawaiian punch. Any punch would have been better. Alrighty. Bernie, what do you call Iron Man without his suit on?
Rusty.
I like that.
Stark naked. His name's Tony Stark. And he's stark naked. Corn Dog, what is Spider-Man's favorite brand of rice?
Rice-A-Roni.
Uncle Ben's, of course. His uncle's named Ben. No? Okay. Bernie, what do you get when you cross Thor and King Kong?
Pass.
I'll just give you the answer because you get two very angry fictional characters. Hello? No? Okay, that was the joke. That was the
There was a couple of more minutes of WKRP I can go catch if you guys want to continue this.
Corn Dog, what's the difference between Iron Man and Iron Woman?
Nuts and bolts.
This is the one that gets us kicked off the air. Iron Man is a superhero. Iron Woman is a command.
You suck!
Send those cards and letters and emails to...
Nuts and bolts would have been better.
I'm so
Sure
sorry. I got this off the internet. I didn't even read that one.
I just want to say it was so nice working with you guys while we had the chance. Sure, a lot of fun.
Yeah.
If that truck show invitation is still open, I used to own a 65 short bed with a 352 in it. It was like a heck of a truck. I had a 84 C10 back in the 80s.
Yeah.
It was a wonderful truck. If the offer's open.
You know, I had a truck too.
I had a truck. We all had trucks.
No,
this concludes.
trivia,
This movie is crossed in 2 weeks the $2 billion mark. It's going to surpass. What's the movie with all the blue people? Not the Smurfs. The James Cameron
Avatar.
one. Avatar is going to surpass Avatar as the top grossing box office movie. I enjoyed it. We have seen them all though, so I thought it was really, really super good. In Muscle Car Place, changing gears here. I'm going to move on because I can't get over it. My generally at Warren Customs is, I mean, it's in the final throes and things are going really pretty good there. Last week though, while he's doing all the like cosmetic upgrades that we wanted to do in the first place, he's just fixing stuff as he goes. And it needed a heater core. So he pulled the heater box out and put a heater core back in and stuffed it all back together. What a nice thing to do. And then when he was going to hook up the controls, he said, hey, there's nothing here, like to hook up the temp control. And then he said, does it take a heater valve? And I said, I don't know. On a Chevy, it's just a cable. And then we started going back and forth, and he showed me a picture of it, like, it's missing stuff. Somebody, honestly, went to the trouble to take this out and remove the flapper parts and put it all back together and stuff it back in. Like, this was harder than just taking it out. You could have just taken it all out and left it out or sold it or whatever, but they actually took it all out and took out the one thing you need to control temperature and put it all back together, stuffed it back in there. My question to you guys is, why would somebody do this?
The only thing I could think of is maybe the flap was rusted in the closed position, and they figure, okay, well, I'll just
at least
do away with the flap.
Then you have heat. Like, but you have all heat, like uncontrolled heat. You looked at it and you found a flap, right?
Yeah.
So can I buy your flap? And why do you have one? I know you have everything, but why do you have that?
You've been in my backyard.
That's true. You have Fall Guy trucks just raining from the trees.
No Fall Guy trucks anymore, but I've had a fair share of B-bodies, and some of them I've parted out, and some of them come, when I buy them, they'll just come with extra parts. Somehow or another, I wound up with an extra heater box. And I took it up to work, and when I was doing the last car, would have been the 69 Charger 500, had to rob some parts off of it, which also at one time was at Halpag. And so anyways, it was still up there. I thought it was long gone. I didn't know it was still up there. It still had the flap. And so I pulled it out and I said, there you go. That's what you need.
Well, so can I buy it? Or are you just telling me that you have it?
Yeah, I have it. I'm just going to dangle it in front of you.
Well, that would be great. Is it in the grand scheme of Mopar restorations, would anybody add factory air? Not like a vintage air. I would just put vintage air on the car. But would somebody go to the trouble to put a factory air on a non-factory air car? Does that require more changes than just the heater system?
Yeah, the firewall is actually different. You could probably cut out the sections that are different and graft them into the firewall of a non-AC firewall. A non-AC firewall, the heater box is held in with 3 bolts or 3 nuts on the studs, and the AC one is held in with 5. So then you've got additional holes. You've got a big square block where the valve comes through, and you've got a blower motor hole, and so it's a different firewall. But I mean, you can modify one to accept a factory evaporator box,
okay,
if you wanted to, but that's a lot of work.
So at some point, I'm going to rewire this car. And now would have been the time to go ahead and put the vintage air setup in. But it's already May, and it's, there are fun things to be doing with the car now. And Nathan is so clever. He just keeps finding ways to make this hacked together wiring harness work. And he is hacked into it to make other stuff work. So it has console lights now. And they work with everything else that the dome light switch system would work on. It has all of the lights on the dash that work, like the ashtray light works. It has a glove box light. The light that worked already was the little light over the ignition switch that kind of dims out after a while. Yeah. He found the guts to make the trunk light work. Do all cars have that, or is that part of a light package?
That's part of the light package.
As far as I can tell, this was not like a super option car. It was a big block car, new, but it was like a 2-barrel auto on the column, manual, everything type car.
A01 is the light group package. It was a pretty common package. It was nice to have, especially the glove box light and a couple other things. So I believe you should also have the hood turn signal indicators with the package, maybe.
Yeah, the holes are there, and the last shop bonded over the top.
Yeah.
Well, there's filler plates, and then it actually looks nice from the outside.
Yeah, I actually prefer not to have them, just because that's one more thing to have to buy.
Were there two versions of that? Was there an early production version and a late production version? I run into that on my Chevelle, that the early 66 air-conditioned cars are different than the late 66. The early ones, they have the evaporator inside the fender well on the passenger side, and then the later ones, it's more of a 70s style, or all that junk is out on the firewall in the engine bay.
They're pretty much the same from 66 to 70. All of them are pretty much the same, one to the other. I know the heater boxes are slightly different, a little bit here and there, like a little bracket or whatever, but as far as like the firewall goes and the overall design of the box itself, they're pretty much the same.
Now you know. That was the question you were afraid to ask.
Power antenna. Nathan gets full credit for this one because on season 2, season 3, I assume they could lower the antenna or they would just snap it off and paint the nub or whatever. Well, he said, I want to put a power antenna in it. So for $23 on Amazon, we got a power antenna. And he rigged up a way to make it work. And then the radio I got is one you had suggested quite a while ago, the Redondo. Retro Sound is the name of it. Retro Sound, the model is Redondo. And it looks like a factory radio, but it's AM, FM, digital, Bluetooth equipped. And then there's one speaker that I bought, and he already stuck it in. It's the center dash speaker. That's the only speaker I'll put in there. It's getting exciting. I'm getting pumped. I can't wait to go down there.
Getting close.
I was just wondering on the radio antenna, if you would, since Warren can clearly do anything and do it well, when the antenna comes up, I wonder if he can make a little flag that pops out. This kind of thing.
Those were $39.99.
$39.99.
This was $23.
Buy 2 and shipping still free.
That's right.
Bernie, you want to hit a couple emails before we roll on to the interview?
No, not really.
Thank you so much, Bernie. Is this... What the hell,
I would love to.
This is on strike, Bernie.
This is 9:02 p.m. Bernie. Just so angry.
I'd love to. I got a couple. With our show time, 2 is about all we'll get to, so we'll start with this. Jack Rives, like the first part, love your show. I've listened to nearly episode from the past year and enjoy, quotations, nearly every minute of it. All right, here's the question. If you had to choose between 2, would you rather own an original screen-used 68 Dodge Charger stunt car in full Dukes livery with the original taillights, front end, and a small block Chrysler, or a replica 69 with a full livery and a 440 big block? I think I know where this is going. What's your pleasure?
Green used 68 with the 68 taillights?
68 Charger stunt car with full dressing with the original taillights, front end, and the small block Chrysler.
I think what he means is, would you rather have an original car, say it was a 68, it's got the fake grill and the fake taillights, but it's a small block and it's all whooped and beat up. Or you could have a 69 440, but it's a replica. Nice car, but it's a replica. Would you rather have the beat up original or the replica?
The original.
That's the choice. The stunt car 68 or the 69 big block.
Despite the fact that I'm doing a replica right now, that is what I want. If you could only have one, it would be the original car. There's 2 originals, actually 3, that I would really really love to go after. One would be the last surviving RT. One would be the close-up car. And one would be the mysterious, missing, forever young Charger that I will find before I die. Unless somebody beats me to it. And I think of those three, I want that one the most because it's still a mystery.
It's never been found yet. So if it's even still out there. So
are there any other TV series or movie cars where there is a quest to find an original one that you're aware of? I mean, I know we don't know every single, like, does Miami Vice have this level of fandom over the fake Ferraris? No.
I don't think so. If any of them, it would be Knight Rider.
Yeah, I could see that. Although, in my limited knowledge of that, I think all the known cars are pretty well accounted for. I don't know that there's any missing cars. I interviewed a guy on the muscle car place, and his name escapes me, but he would know. There are 2 or 3 people who are really, really versed in it. I think they would know.
Yeah, anyway. He's from Iowa as well, isn't he?
He is and he isn't. He does have a home here and some rental property here.
Okay.
But I don't believe he lives here full time. I Google mapped his address and he was telling me where to go, and someday I will. But we've never even met in person.
All right. Thanks, Jack, for the question. Next is Brad T. Now, Brad sent each of us a YouTube link to watch. And then, assuming that you guys did your homework and watched this, then the question applies to the video that he sent. Not the most important, but the real question is it a real and what real car and which number? I don't believe the things they said. I want Corn Dog to verify it. Looking forward to the next Kibbe and Friends. Give any info you can on the show. I'd love to hear the response in the podcast.
And this is the video from a week or 2 ago that portrays the last surviving real RT that is being used in the Muscle Kings car shows, right?
Yes.
Okay. Corn Dog, is it really the RT?
Oh, yeah. It's the only surviving RT of the 17 that were sold back in 91 to the Dodge Charger registry. It is a legit RT, and it's car number WGL 24. Long story short, when Wayne Wooten purchased all the cars through his club, his brother started with that car. And for whatever reason, he didn't keep it very long. And then Bob Hartwick bought it from Wayne's brother. And so he's kept it until sometime last year, I believe. And that's when the guy from Germany purchased it. And so he is the current owner.
Was that used on the Auto Trader commercial too?
Yes and no. It was there, but I don't believe it was ever actually used. It was there when I was there during the Auto Trader commercial, but it stayed in the upper level at the very front of the transporter. And so when I went in there, all I could see was the bottom side of it and the taillight panel, but the owner of it was there as well. But I think he probably didn't want to get it out just because it was a mess down there. I mean, it was muddy and just slick, and it was a mess. And he probably, for the sake of the car, decided not to use it. So, But I think it may have been used for some publicity stuff, maybe. But I know the main picture that you normally see is not that particular car. It was actually another RT.
Okay, good enough there. It's real Brad, right? Brad?
Yeah, it's real deal.
Yeah, it's real Brad. It's the real thing.
There's a couple of good shots of the push bar in that video. Is that real? Is that something that Rob and Nathan can use?
No, that's the wide push bar. That would have been a later season push bar because Rob wants the narrow one. But it is the original push bar as well. But that car has had a little bit of work done to it over the years, but it's still mostly original.
The push bar now, the reason it kind of looks weird is because it's got a website logo on it.
Yeah, I hate that.
Put it on the glass.
Yeah, put it on the windshield. That's fine.
Yeah. Okay, that's it. We are replete and complete with this week's emails.
Very good. So what we're going to do now is we are going to roll to our interview with Mr. Jack Gill. And this was kind of set up originally by you, Corn Dog, visiting John Schneider's event, Bo's Extravaganza birthday. And you ran into him there. And we did run a little bit of an interview that you had him there, actually a couple, I think. And that led to him extending an invite for us to do something more formal. So that's what we did here. And that's what we rolled in the kind of Patreon bonus show that went out this month. I did want to give a little shout out. We've had a number of people jump in on Patreon. We tried to announce some names in the last Patreon show, but there's more coming in than I was keeping track of. Well, so I want to make sure everybody gets their due. And I'm going to call out people's names. I'm not going to tell you levels, but it's important to us. It's well appreciated. So Brian Atkinson. Then we have Jerry David, unless he goes by Gary. William Britt. Evan Winterstein. James Etherton. I don't know, James. Thank you, though, James. Greg Bliss. Austin Chestnut. And that's just to name a few. Some of these were already contributors who upped their pledge to a different level, and some of them are brand new. And all of you are very much appreciated. So from us to you, thank you very much for supporting our show, and we will absolutely keep rolling with what we're doing. I think the next celeb we're going to get on is Catherine Bach.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
I look forward to that one, but I'm kind of like the meat and potatoes kind, so I like the stunt guys and all, for their stories. She may have some interesting stories, but I'm a car guy, so I really like the car stories.
Now you're acting like she just kind of stood around and didn't do anything till the director said, go. Do you think that's true, or do you think she had a bigger role in it?
Well, no, I think they did. I think, they all had a big role in it, of course, but what I've generally run into is the actors, they're too busy focusing on their lines and getting their lines right and doing all that, whereas the stunt guys, they've got great stories because it's all cutting up and having a good time, and we'll have to ask some road runner questions.
In episode 2 of Ms. Bach, you'll notice that you were using some off-brand white letter tires. Your thoughts? The red bikini, tell me more. When would they have shot that? In late November, early December?
Yeah, it's late November.
That's America right there. Right there. Well, let's go ahead and roll here to Jack Gill. Everybody, thank you so much for listening and supporting. We'll be back next week with actually a regular format show. We haven't done one of those in a long, long time, so that'll be totally fun. But you can find us all over. First of all, go to themusclecarplace.com. That's where all these shows live there. You can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, iHeartRadio, and Patreon. That's patreon.com/KF show. Man, I think that's it for now. Next week, I kind of want to get Nathan Warren on with us. You guys okay with that? I have come to... All right, here's a crazy Nathan Warren story. He's got a story for everything. And he was telling me, at one point, he was an insurance adjuster. And he was doing a job somewhere in Louisiana, or you know what? He'll have to tell you where. But he went to a guy, and the guy was convinced that Sasquatch was a real thing. Like Bigfoot, real thing.
Yeah.
And was trying to talk to Nathan about why, if Sasquatch were found and that he and his friends were on the lookout, they should kill him and show him to the others around to prove that he wasn't crazy. And he also wanted Nathan to know that this Sasquatch is indeed an alien life force. Dead serious. And Nathan's listening and very thoughtful and says, just think it out loud. If you kill him, he's going to tell his friends in outer space, and they're going to be pissed, and they're going to come back here and kill us. And that's what ended the conversation, I think. Nathan can give you the details of it, but he went so much as not to say, you're a loon, and leave, but engage in conversation. Let me work you through the logic here. Here's why you shouldn't kill him. He also
just the outside looking in.
I've really, really come to enjoy his text. When I call him, though, it's usually an hour. Good stuff. All right. You guys are the best. Thanks for being so good that other people want to poach you. And anybody that has a question for me, just email Robert at themusclecarplace.com. Here is Jack Gill. See you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.
We welcome legendary stunt driver, stunt performer, coordinator, maybe director, pretty much all-around awesome guy who has a very long IMDb page, Mr. Jack Gill. So we, on this show, know him for his stunts, and we know a few in particular. But he has done a lot of things, including Knight Rider. He literally went to the dark side, and and is the guy that is making Fast and Furious a pretty amazing stunt franchise, at least from our perspective. So we wanted to have you on, and we got lucky. So Jack, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Can you talk about maybe your friendship with John Schneider? Does that predate the Dukes of Hazzard? I did do a little snooping on you, and from what I can tell, you've been working prior to Dukes of Hazzard.
John and I went to high school together, which is kind of, a lot of people don't know that, but we went to this place called North Springs High School, and, he was 3 years younger than I was, and when I decided to move out to California to become a stuntman, he wanted to go with me, and his mother wouldn't let him because he hadn't graduated high school yet, and he was still a lot younger to be out there on his own. So I left, went to California, and then about 3 years into my career, John calls me up and says, hey, I'm auditioning for this role in the Dukes of Hazzard. And I said, there's 5,000 people auditioning for this role. Oddly enough, John got it, and it was fantastic. And then the next thing I know is I'm on the show doubling John. And John didn't really have a whole lot of power when he first started on the show. So the way that I got on was a guy named Gary Baxley, who talked to Paul Baxley, who was the second unit director. And he said, hey, Jack knows John. Why don't we bring him on to double John? And that's how it all started. And so John started the seed with Gary Baxley, and then Gary Baxley talked to Paul, and that's how I got on the show.
Okay, the Baxleys. So that's a pretty famous Hollywood stunt name overall. Did you know them or know of them prior to Dukes and any interaction with John?
I knew who they were. When I started on the show, it was still very early in its infancy. I mean, I came on at about the fourth show when they were just coming back from Georgia. So at that time, Dukes was just starting to become a hit. Everybody that talks about the show says they really didn't think it had a chance because nobody really wanted to see a bunch of moonshiners running around on dirt roads. But it really wasn't about that. It was about having a good feeling at the end of the picture and having a family type feeling and people who wanted to see good things done, knowing that there are bad guys in the show, and the Duke boys always found a way around it. And at the end of the show, you felt good. And that's what people liked about the show. Even though I know we had a lot of action in it, the action was just a partnership to what we had for a family show. And that's what I think made the show successful.
What got you specifically started in stunts? Why stunts?
Well, I had been racing motocross professionally and making a pretty good living at it. But I had just finished this race in Florida, and I had won all three events. I had won the 125 class, the 250 class, and the open class. And this was a Monday morning after a Sunday race, and I was packing up and checking out of this little motel, a Holiday Inn in Florida. And this guy walked up to me and saw my picture in the local paper and said, hey, is that you? And I said, yeah. And he said, you won all those races? And I said, yes, I did. And he said, well, you think you can jump a motorcycle over a bunch of burning cars? And I said, well, if I can build a ramp and pick the motorcycle, yeah, I can do it. And he said, all right, fine. Come out to California in a week, and I want you to do it. And that guy was Hal Needham, and he was doing a thing called Gator down in Florida at the time. And I packed everything I owned up and went out to California thinking, well, I'm just going to go out there and do this one little thing and then leave. And Hal is essentially the guy who put me under his wing and taught me everything I knew and told me what to do. And that's what started my new career. I originally thought I was going to retire from motocross and own a motorcycle shop, but Hal talked me out of it and said, look, we have an opening. There's a lot of motorcycle things happening in TV and film, and we just don't have enough motorcycle riders. We have a lot of horsebackers because it was all Westerns before this, but now we need really good motocross guys and guys who can jump and wheelie and crash motorcycles, and you seem to be the guy. So that's the niche that I kind of fit in at the time.
I had no idea. So Justin is our expert. Whenever we review episodes of the Dukes of Hazzard in this show, he'll point out which stunt person is doing which stunt. Almost every time, whenever there's a motorcycle, it's you. I'm just that dumb. I never put two and two together. I just thought, what I'm learning is that stunt performers seem to be able to do anything. Are there specialists, though? So Buzz Bundy did the two-wheel ski, and when it comes to driving or falling off a building or jumping a car, do people specialize? Is that a thing?
When I got into the business, they didn't. You couldn't really make a living as a stunt performer if you specialized because there wasn't enough work out there to be able to do it. So we had to go out on Saturdays, and almost every Saturday we would all meet together, 10, 12, 15 of us, and we would fall horses and slide cars around and get on motorcycles and do jumps. And all the older guys were teaching the younger guys how to do all the stuff that they didn't want to do anymore. You learn to do everything, and there were always high falls and there were burns, and a lot of guys didn't want to do it, or the first time they got hurt, they said, I'm out of this. I don't want to get hurt anymore. So you kind of had to adjust to the fact that you knew you were going to get injured and hope that it wasn't career breaking. Over the years, yes, I did get hurt a lot, but back in the late 70s and mid 80s, everybody got hurt. You kind of understood that that was the name of the game because you were breaking into new ground and doing stuff that nobody had ever done before. In doing that, you were saying, I don't know what really is going to become of this. We think this is going to happen, but we don't really know for sure. In today's business, it's much more calculated. We've got a lot more. Over the years, we've all accumulated a lot of data, and everybody has that data and shares it. And the great part about it with the internet is within 2 clicks, you can find out something somebody else has done and see how it went, how he rigged it, what he did. And so in today's business, you can afford to be good at 1 or 2 things and make a good living at it because there's much more work. And the fact that people are out there looking for experts. They want the very best that they can get in whatever particular gag they are doing. And so if we're doing wingsuit guys that are parachuters, we're not going to use stunt guys. We're going to use guys that only do wingsuit flying, which back in my day, we'd find a stunt guy who also parachuted, which is what I learned to do as well. So that's the difference in today's business, that you can, perform 1 or 2 things very, very good and have a good living in the business. Mm-hmm. Not in my day.
We do a lot of deep digging on the cars of the Dukes of Hazzard. Were there any stick shift cars? Were they always automatics?
I think I got maybe 3 stick shift cars in my time, but I never got a stick shift car on a jump. The thing that we always were hoping for was on the big jumps, we get a 440. And maybe once every 2 or 3 weeks, I would get a 440. You wouldn't always, because if the car got all bent up and they couldn't bend it back out, they would just pull the engine and put the engine in something else. Sometimes the engine would last, sometimes it wouldn't. Sometimes we'd break the block on the impact. You just never knew how much you would break of the car on the way in. But lucky you're always jumping to dirt most of the time. I only jumped to asphalt on Dukes of Hazzard maybe 15, 20 times out of, 80 or 90 jumps. And, the cement ones always damage the car and hurt a little more than the dirt ones do. But the ones over things where you have to clear something are the ones that are more dangerous, because if you're short at all, you haven't cleared what you absolutely have to clear. Like the lake ones always bothered me because I'm so tied into the car that we had to develop quick releases on the bungee cords to my shoulders because I had a quick release for my lap belts, but we didn't have a way to get out of my chest harness, my jump harness. You were hand tied into it. So we had to put in quick release tabs that were you just pushed one button and you could get out of both of them. And in a pinch, they weren't easy to get out of. You had to take the pressure out of them before you could get the releases to pop out. So I had to push myself into the roof to try and pop yourself out, and it wasn't fast. So we kept developing ways to get D-rings that were quicker to get out of, because if the car was burning or if it was upside down or anything like that, you wanted to get out quickly. And so there was always things that helped a little bit more to make it more believable and more work for us. But the more things that we could work to make it more safe were what we were really trying to invent, because comfort we could care less about. A lot of times after the jumps, I always had big red marks right underneath my armpits where this thing would grab. And it was like somebody just took, whiplash marks and stuck them underneath your arms, because it was a lot of pull, a lot of weight hitting every time you hit. But I could care less about that. The fact that my back wasn't broken was what we were going for.
One of the questions you had asked, Justin, was about driving versus jumping. You want to ask that one?
I know you said you always enjoyed sliding around and actually running from the cops. Did you ever have like a favorite car? You preferred this car over another or whatever? And if so, did you remember like what car number it was?
At that time, Paul said, get into this car. And that was all it was.
Okay.
When we got into a car, it was usually, I didn't know the numbers on the doors. We just knew, open the door and it has a number that's stuck on, written in, and usually marks a lot or something. That was back then, there weren't Sharpies back then. There were big marks lots, and they'd write the number on the inside of the door and you jump in that car. Sometimes we were sliding around corners in jump cars because other cars were being painted or they were being used for something else. So we mixed and matched throughout the entire day, jumping in different cars all the time, as well as mixing and matching outfits to double other people for other sequences. There were times where I would double John, doubling the General Lee, and then 10 minutes later, I'm in a Boss Hogg outfit, or I'm in a Roscoe outfit driving a police car. because Jerry Summers was overdoing something else, or there were only 5 of us. So we were bouncing around a lot. And in the early days, we didn't have any girls. So somebody had to double Kathy Box. So we'd flip a coin and one of us had to get in the hot pants. But that was how it was back then. There just wasn't a lot of stunt guys that worked the set all the time.
Was sliding around your favorite thing versus jump? And in the cars, maybe there was another stunt entirely different that you preferred, but...
I mean, realistically, the times when you're sliding around cars being chased by a cop, knowing that you're going to get away from it was what was fun about it. Because you feel like you're in trouble. You hear the sirens, and even though, it's not real, we still had lights, and we could have sirens if we wanted to, because second unit didn't have sound. So we'd run the whole gamut and honk the horns and do all kind of things and have fun with it. The fact that I could slide around corners and get away when I was supposed to be the guy who was always under control, even though you see the car going sideways around the curves, it's dirt track racing. That's what it essentially is. The guy that's doubling the Roscoe cars and the Enos cars have to be sloppy. They have to come in the cars and overslide it and hit things and be sloppy back there. So I'm having fun. I'm coming in driving as fast as I can drive. So that's the best part about it. The jumps were only usually 45 seconds to a minute, and then you're done with it. The chases would last sometimes, a minute and a half, 2 minutes, and then you're into another sequence. And that was what was fun.
Were you on the first 4 seasons then? When did you transition out? Because we know that you were the big man on Knight Rider too.
Right. Knight Rider started in, I think, 83. Whenever Knight Rider started is when I made the transition from Dukes of Hazzard to Knight Rider. And I made the transition then primarily because Paul Baxley had become the second unit producer as well. I mean, I have to say this, he was a genius at filming stunts and at setting up stunts, and he trained us to be the best that we could be. And we learned so much from Paul Baxley, but I got an offer to go do Knight Rider. And when I did, they came and said, look, you're going to come over here and start jumping cars just like you were jumping cars on Dukes of Hazzard, and we're going to pay you 4 times what they're paying now. And so I went to John Schneider and I told him what I was going to do. And I said, look, I hate to leave the show, but we're making a third of what we were making before. And I don't know how many more of these my back can take. Yeah. So if I go over to this new show, are you okay with it? And he goes, yeah. I understand it completely. Don't worry about it. Go ahead and go. We're at the end of our leg anyway. He goes, we've already left the show once, and you're entitled to it. Go ahead and go. And when I got over to Knight Rider, I was bringing all of that wealth of information that Paul Baxley gave us to a show that had never heard it before. We used exactly the same formulas for jumping all the ramps and doing everything the same way, but we had a lot less ground clearance on the Knight Rider car than we did in the Dukes of Hazzard. So the cars hit a lot harder, and we're going to cement every single jump, and that hurt a lot more than it did before. But we didn't break our backs. It just hit a lot harder. So I'm glad that they let me go. I hate that I had to leave the show, but I like the fact that I brought all that technology to a show without people saying, you can't do that, you can't give up our secrets, because everybody in our community, in the stunt community, knew that we were using the jump vest. So I like the fact that John was open to letting me go, and so was everybody else. Paul wasn't very happy. Paul wanted me to stay on the show because I was the guy that was doing all of the jumps for him at the time. Alan didn't really want to do the jumps anymore because he had gotten kind of heavy. Alan said he wanted me to do the jumps, but when I left the show, we had to bring in Corey Eubank, and Corey started doing the jumps as well as John Cade, because Alan had gotten to a point where his weight, he couldn't get in the car and get in the jump harness anymore. He had done a lot of jump before that. In fact, some of the really big jumps, like over the train, between the train, was Alan, and Alan did the big ones. Yeah. So, a lot of the stuff changed, and when I left the show, Paul was a little mad at me, but he got over it. And the minute the replacements came in, they all did a great job too. So it's not like I was doing anything that nobody else could do, but we broke new ground on Dukes of Hazzard, and we used that technology on Knight Rider and a lot of other shows that we did. We even took it into Fall Guy and into, a lot of the shows that you saw. Airwolf was using it, and all the action shows in the 80s were BJ and the Bear. You were doing everything that we learned from Paul Baxley on Dukes of Hazzard.
There is an early season Knight Rider episode. There's a race and the Prince brothers drive this orange Dodge Charger. It's a very familiar looking car. It doesn't have numbers on it, though. But we were curious about that. Can you tell us all about that?
Well, I mean, we were having a story meeting, and in the story meeting, one of the producers came up and said, well, Jack did Dukes of Hazzard, and, why don't we do something really cool with them racing each other? They said, well, we can't put an 01 on the car, and we can't put a Rebel flag on top of the car, but let's see how far we can go with it. We can probably use a Challenger of that year, but it might have to be another color. And about 2 days after that, they came back and said, look, we can use an orange car. We just have to make it look like it's some kind of new fuel, because that's what the race is going to be about, new fuel. Mm-hmm. And so they'll say, we'll take the trunk lid off of it and make it look like it's running on moonshine. And that'll make it more like it's a Dukes of Hazzard car. And we can't put the 01 on it, but what else can we do that's really cool? Bob Braver, who was the second director at the time, said, how about, Jack, do you think you can jump over it? And I said, yeah, if it can get sideways in front of the ramp, I can jump over him. I'll just do a 125, 130-foot jump. We just got to see if he can get underneath me at the time. I said, if we just have him stop, it doesn't make any sense in a race. If he just stops in front of the ramp and I turbo boost over him, I don't know how we write that into the show. And so they were trying to figure out something that made him slam on the brakes in front of the kit car. We had to push turbo boost to get over him to keep from killing everybody. And then I said, I think I can do it on the move. And so we had already figured out, look, if you don't jump over him, let's do a second jump with him stopped in front of you, and we'll figure out how to make it work with him stopped. And we had a guy named Mike Tillman drive the General Lee looking car. And I said, you cut underneath me, just ride alongside me, and just on the ramp, just gas it and pitch it in front of me, turn underneath the ramp and go as close as you can to in front of the ramp. And I'm going to punch it at the ramp too. I have to be over the top of you by the time it all works. And so it all timed out great. Mike Tillman said that he heard me hit the steel ramp and thought that I'd busted through the ramp, because he said, when your window is down and you're right next to the ramp, when you hit the ramp, he goes, you wouldn't believe the noise of a 4,000-pound car hitting a steel ramp when you're only like 40 feet from it. He goes, it sounds like somebody hit a cymbal. And he goes, I thought you had busted through it, because all I saw was a bunch of dust and debris go over the top of me, and you made it. So, it all worked great. But that was the idea behind, if we didn't get over it, we were going to have them slam on the brakes, and I was going to jump over him that way.
Do you know who built that car? Was it the Vazes?
Yeah, the Vazes built that General Lee. Yeah.
Okay.
I wonder if it was a General Lee at some time, or if they just made it up new.
That car's always been a mystery.
Yeah, and it's strange because at the end, when you see it get blown up, we didn't really blow it up a lot. They just blew up. I had a little fireball explosion in it, and that was about it.
You've done a lot of things now, and you're the person that's making Fast and Furious pretty incredible. And I've watched a lot of your YouTube videos. Like, I watched your whole YouTube video on describing how you guys filmed the safes, like that whole thing. Yeah. Was Dukes of Hazzard special in the grand scheme of things? Was it just another good show that had a long run? Where does that fit for you personally?
Well, I mean, I think the vault chase in Fast 5 was an iconic chase for any lifetime in somebody's career. To this day, I still have people introduce me as, hey, that's the Dukes of Hazzard guy, or hey, that's the Knight Rider guy. So it still holds a lot of credibility because that show was iconic throughout the entire amount of years that it's been. No matter what set I walk into, that seems to be something people still bring up. And in my heart, it was a tough show. It wasn't an easy show to do. And to this day, we still don't do that much action that quickly, in the time frame that we had to do it. Because TV, you had to do a lot of action in 1 week. It was 5 days is all we had to film an episode. In today's world, they usually have anywhere from 10 days to 2 weeks to film an episode if it's an action show. In features, you get to rehearse it way ahead of time. You get to work all the kinks out. And when you film it, sometimes you get 2 weeks to do one gag. Mm-hmm. In our day, we didn't have that. It was a hit or miss thing. Now, if the stunt went completely wrong, yes, you may have a Saturday that which you come back and try and fix what went wrong. But more times than not, everything went right for us, which I've got to say, you got to knock on wood that we got lucky a lot of times. It wasn't about us being smart being smarter than everybody else in the business. We just had a lot of heads around and a lot of older stunt guys who had been in the business to think things out and to say, this is what we think is going to work to the best of our abilities. And that's what you went with. Dukes of Hazzard and Knight Rider were iconic things for anybody in the business. But for me, it will always be dear to my heart in that we did so many stunts in such a short amount of time. I will never in my career do more jumps or more turnovers or more crashes than I did on those two shows. It's just not possible. There's no way to do it. Even in today's world, if you had an action TV show, you still would not put that on the schedule to do that many things in that short a time.
That's pretty awesome. What I kind of hoped your answer would be, but you never know until somebody has the answer. Is it different doing comedies than action shows? Like Talladega Nights, I know that you were performed in that, or what's the other Will Ferrell movie? The Other Guys. I don't think it would be different to be a stunt person just based on the genre, but is it?
Well, it depends on what part in the sequence that you're playing. With Talladega Nights and The Other Guys, you have to understand that violence plays a big part in the movie. And if it's too violent, you lose the comedic edge that you wanted for it. So even though Talladega Nights had a lot of action in it, and we were turning over some big cars and doing stuff at, sometimes we're doing 180 around the turns. And when we did those two cannon rolls, which I wasn't in that car, it was Steve Kelso, he was doing upwards of 95 to 100 when he pushed the button. Now, when the guys get out of the cars, it's all comedic. At that point, we're trying to just pull off the safest gag we can to make the best outcome of it. But you have to take into mind that there are a lot of other comedic bits in that. In Talladega Nights, when I crashed the car into the house and was blindfolded, that was all comedic. So I can't really crash into the sides of the parked cars hard. I have to just graze them, bounce off of them, and then go across the grass and crash into the house and make it all look great. Well, at the time, I couldn't really see. The director wanted me to actually have a blindfold on and just cut two little tiny little eye slits out of it so I could just barely see. Because he said, I don't want you to be able to see everything. I want you to just have a little bit of vision so that it's tough for you to find your mark. And so I said, well, this could all go wrong. I could just crash into these cars on the side and never get away from them. He goes, well, if that happens, we'll back up and we'll do it all again and try it again. So it all worked the first take. But that was a thing where it was comedic. You have to make it look comedic. And so Dukes of Hazzard was a comedy, and we were always trying to make it look comedic all the time. Fast and Furious was not. Everything that you do on that has to look visceral, has to look energetic. And I guess it does have its parallels in that you want the audience member to be in that driver's seat. You want the person who's watching the movie or the TV show to feel like they're in the driver's seat doing exactly what that actor is doing. And that's where I think people enjoy these types of TVs and movies, is where they feel like they're part of the action. So that's what I think the difference is, that you have to be careful about how violent it is, whether it's a comedy or, an action movie. So a stunt person has to ride a fine line.
I'm not sure where else to go. We could probably talk to you for hours and hours and hours, but where I think I would like to end is the update on where an award or an Oscar category might appear for a stunt performer. And I know that you're a champion of that. Is that a reality? Is that a close thing? Is there a reason it hasn't happened?
We have a lot of animosity from the Academy toward the stunt industry as a whole. And why we have that animosity, I don't know. They've had 50 different reasons why they don't want us in there, even though we've had an enormous amount of appeal from the public, from our peers, producers, directors, actors have all written letters. They've all, done videos, and we still get a negative connotation from the Academy. What we're doing now, we've got a couple of documentary movies that are going to come out this coming year in 2019 that are going to completely tell you everything and anything you want to know about the stunt industry and how it's put together and how each and every aspect of what a stunt person does and what an action designer does to make it all happen, and how much they really put into the making of a TV show or a movie. And for the Academy, it's all about movies. And one of the things that we had a big argument about, I said, you take the chariot chase out of Ben-Hur, and you tell me that that film would have been as successful as it is today. And they disagree with me. They say you could take the chariot chase out completely, and that film would still be a complete success today. And I completely disagree with them, because every single teaser that you see about Ben-Hur has the chariot chase in it. You know, that's one of the things that's in it throughout the entire teaser. Every single one of them. They don't take it out in any teaser. That's what we have as a difference between our thinking on what we bring to the business and what they think we bring to the business. And we have to change their mindset. And I think it does have a lot to do with the fact that they don't want us to be in there because they believe that we are below their social state, in that we're going to muddy the water of how high up they are in their social stature. And I hate to say that, but they do thumb their nose at us a lot. We've been in meetings where we walk in and you can see them look up in the air and go, oh my God, we have to talk with these guys again, or these guys and girls again, or these people again. And they keep saying, we've already given you our reasoning behind it. Why do you keep walking into our office and bothering us again? And so we have to change that. We have to come in and say, this is what we do. What if we just completely stop it and say there won't be any action in the business at all? And they come back to me and said, we don't care. All we really care about are films that have no action in them at all. And I said, well, you won't make any money, because the only films that really make money in the business these days are action films. The films that you believe that are Academy-nominated films are ones that nobody comes to see. The big films that make lots of money have action in them. The Academy has to understand that. And hopefully these documentaries that we're putting out are going to show them the light and say, you can really profit from this. If you just open up your doors and allow us to have a category, you're really going to see a profit from it, because the studios will profit in the fact that they can now say, we have Academy Award-winning action designers who have done these films, and then they profit even more from that. The Academy will profit from it because they can now advertise the Academy Awards, saying that they have designers, action designers, and stunt people who have now won awards from it. So everybody wins.
Look what Avengers just did over the weekend.
Right.
Right. I was there last night. I loved every second of it. I couldn't tell you the last non-action movie now that I think about it, unless it was like a cartoon, you know, with kids or something like that.
Well, and even when you see some of the movies that the Academy deems non-action oriented movies, you know, they still have stunt coordinators on them. It's like no film really doesn't have a stunt coordinator, because you have to be careful of the crew and of the actors and make sure everybody's safe. It's not that those films might get nominated for an Oscar, but they still have an action designer who is on the set making sure everybody is safe and helping the actors with their characters when a little bit of action happens. So they're all there all the time. It's not like they're not a part of it.
Man, this was amazing. Jack, I'm not sure what to say other than thank you. Thank you for the time. Thanks for indulging us. Thanks for the education here.
Sure.
Is there anything else we need to cover? Is there a way that people find you direct if they'd like to reach out?
They can always reach out through StuntsUnlimited.com. It's Stunts is a pretty easy word to remember, and Unlimited is pretty easy. We just put them together and put a .com at the end. It's StuntsUnlimited.com, and you can see all of our videos, post any of your own videos if you want on there. You can talk to Carrie. She is our supervisor that handles everything that comes in there. If people want to talk to me, they can go through her and they'll find me wherever I am. So it's a great organization that is a group of stunt people who believe in the fact that we all have each other's lives in our hands. And so we try and all work together, but we do have an outside membership group of other stunt people who are in a book. And we say, if we can't fill the members that are in our Stunts Unlimited group, we're going to go outside to get the very best and talented stunt people that we can. And so that's the great part about it, is that Stunts Unlimited is an ever-growing group that of the best in the world.
Very good.
Glad to talk to you guys. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, when this goes live, we enjoy. Our fans are going to go ballistic over this. This is going to go well. So thank you. Oh, your daughter's awesome in Parks and Rec. I thought she was very funny.
I'm glad you like that. She's had a lot of fun with that show. It's been a great thing for her.
This is why I always like talking to the stunt guys. They always have the best stories.
Very good. Well, thank you again, and we will we'll catch you later. Okay?
Okay. Thanks a lot.